Hello, everybody. Well, taking everything into consideration, all the information, all the audio, documents, yada, yada, yada. It's a clear fact that nothing will ever make sense, because nothing ever does. We got people that think Ryan is responsible for what happened. We got groups that say that it was Bobby Scott, and there's people that think the law enforcement. But if what the newspaper boy or man is true, that means Manitowoc Sheriff's Department has nothing to do with the vehicle. But then you gotta question everything that's taking place. I mean, Uyghur contacts the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department asking for a detective. He's patched through to Andrew Colborn, who just gave a deposition 2 weeks prior on Stephen Avery's lawsuit. Then we have Dennis Jacobs and Remaker being paged by Detective Link. So, never want to assume, but you got to think that after Colborn received that call from Wiegert, he called James Link first. Now he's giving information to and go to two locations in Manitowoc, one being George Zipper's, the other one being Stephen Avery's. Now he's at the sheriff's department when he gets his call from Uyghur. So he would have to drive past Zipper's to get to Avery's. Why did he drive right past it? He claims that he's seen no lights on, so he thought nobody was home in reports. He then goes to Avery's, talks to Avery. Don't know what he's doing from the time that he goes to Avery's and ends up in the church parking lot. But a lot of time has passed. We got Calumet County stating that the dispatcher, that John Dietering, is on his way to Manitowoc to talk to George Zipperer because they contacted him by phone and he told them to get a lawyer. He was going to get a lawyer and hung up on him. And the dispatcher then refers to Stephen Avery as Teresa Halbach's friend, whom gave this information to the dispatcher, and which law enforcement agent received the information that Teresa Halbach was a friend. We know Andrew Colborn is the only person that made contact with Stephen Avery that very night. I've been going through and trying to timestamp this audio the best I can, using reports, using photos. Like, for instance, on evidence tags, they mark the date and the time that it was collected. And majority of the evidence tags for certain days were collected by Andrew Colborn and James Link. So I've been using that. But back to the RAV4. Now, Siebert states that he's seen two vehicles entering the quarry on the 4th. His daughter also calls because her father seen cars in the quarry driving around. We don't have the dispatch call of Siebert calling him himself. But if what Siebert is true, what he's seen, But did it happen on the day he thinks, or was it prior? Just like the mailman's account. Was he recalling the same day? Nothing makes sense at all. But whoever did put that car on the property knew the property. That's a fact. The car was, in my opinion, the car was covered up to try to play off to the public. That's why they didn't see it on the flyover. They sent several hours up in the air, just above that area, about 25 minutes in all, over the Avery property. But we got 4 minutes of video for that day. That's it. You have to go back to 1985 and how everything played out then. They used the same script as before. Like I said, the only difference between 85 and 2005 is somebody died. In 1985, they wanted it to be Avery. In 2005, they needed it to be Avery. And it goes all the way up from Peg all the way down. I love run different scenarios through my head all the time. I just go with what makes the most logical sense based on statements that individuals have made. Like in trial, for instance, the bus driver. What she's saying is true. What she saw is true. But it didn't happen on the 31st of October. There's no way she could have seen Teresa Halbach taking pictures of the van or a vehicle at that point at the end of Avery Road down by Barb's and Steve's. No way in hell. She's recalling her witnessing Teresa Halbach taking photos of the vehicles when they're parked down at the end of the road. Just like Robert Fabian, his recount of what he says happened on the 31st is not true. He's recalling something else that happened at a different time. It's fucked up. This is all political. The owners are going to need solid proof in order to get Stephen an evidentiary hearing. But then, it's just my thoughts. It doesn't mean anything. I can say what I want, think what I want. Doesn't make a difference. Just like anybody else. Y'all got any questions? No, knowing the property does not mean family. That is correct. But then again, law enforcement did have a bird's eye view of the property before the vehicle was found. That's a fact. Then you got Ryan and all his drop phone calls during the time of the flyover and after. Question is, who hung the flyer up in Manitowoc on the 3rd? Because we got Ryan Gilbert of the Manitowoc Police Department calling in and stating that he just seen a missing poster at the Senex station. The same one that Andrew Colborn is allegedly seen by Kevin Ramlow on the 4th. We know Mike Halbach was south of Manitowoc because he's on the news in a bar handing out flyers. So who went north? You know, law enforcement received all the information from Kelly, Ryan, Scott, Seems like everybody was contacted by phone first, except for Stephen Avery. He's the only one that was physically seen that day first. They called all the other individuals first, and then they went to go see him. Because we got Sipple calling in asking for Mark Wiegert. He was one of the gentlemen that was selling the car for Teresa's first appointment on that day. I've gone over this audio way too many times. But every time I listen to it, something else pops out. Connecting dots. I'm trying to integrate. This was taking me so long. I'm trying to add all the dispatch calls, all the radio transmissions from all three departments, or three lines. There's dispatch lines 1 and 2 for Calumet, which is all time stamped, just like their officer transmissions. Problem is inserting Manitowoc's into theirs. But like I said, I've been using photos, reports. You can listen along to dispatch calls and officer transmissions and look at queso, and it, for most part, it does match up. It's where it doesn't. That's the problem. Steven says he's seen lights. And he also states he thinks it was Bobby Dassey. After the property was released back to the Averys, they blocked off the driveway with a school bus, and they were using Cuss Road to enter and exit the property, driving through the field. Listen to jail calls, you hear all of it. I gotta listen to this audio because it's key. Just like Andrew Colborn requesting the Two Rivers Animal Hospital, Dr. Cott to come remove Bear. And then shortly after that, we have in the background of a dispatch call, them saying once we get this dog removed, which is on the 9th, not the 8th, Bear wasn't removed to the 9th. Lots of things that I don't know if it's important or not, but everything that I've found that I share with has been sent on to KZ. Everything. Steven just needs his evidentiary hearing. That's a fact. The state's case is already blown. What they say happened couldn't have. They just went with Brendan told them what they wanted Brendan to say. It's sick. They went after his alibi last. The weakest link. They tried everything to bring more charges, keep him locked up. If Steven had more money, he could have asked for a mistrial. Too much shady shit going on. Jury was tampered with. That's a fact. And the officers that did it, they just got a slap on the wrist. It all goes back to 1985, though, and the cover-up after he was released. Hopefully, this Colborn lawsuit, when they start these depositions, will bring things to light. If it's a civil suit, they can do whatever they want. They can ask for whatever they want. They can interview anybody they want. But they asked for 6 weeks. It was supposed to be done by April 9th, so now we gotta wait till May 21st. And April 9th was a Saturday. So it would have been done April 8th, a Friday. So, like I said, nothing in this case makes sense. The only thing that makes sense is that Steven was framed. It all comes back to Peg and her identifying that the only reason Stephen Avery was arrested and convicted and sent to prison is because the Penny Bernstein identified the wrong individual. But Gregory Allen was never shown to Penny. Judy Dvorak, she's the one that suggested, oh, that sounds like Stephen Avery. And Jean Couché comes in with his tracing of Stephen Avery's mugshot from the Sandra Morris arrest. The fact that he had that picture hung up in his office, that's I mean, Dennis Vogel prosecuted Gregory Allen a year prior to the Penny Bernstein attack. He knew about him. And he fits the MO 100%. But nope, Tom Kasurk wanted Stephen Avery to go down for this. And that's why Dennis Vogel and Tom Kasurk, with both being sued individually for $1 million up to $18 million apiece. But Kasurk was also being sued along with the county. Vogel was by himself. Kasurk tried getting out of the deposition. Sent the email asking to not have to participate. It was ordered that he had to. Conveniently, Stephen Avery was arrested on a gun charge. That was the state's fault from when they released him in 2003. They wiped all charges. Because when he was arrested and charged and convicted in the Penny Bernstein attack, he was also tried with the Sandra Morris. He got 6 years for that. But the state of Wisconsin, when they released him, they cleared his name. He went hunting in 2003. He went hunting in 2004. He was planning on going hunting in 2005. I mean, he was trying to get his bail. The land was set, ready to go. First, he tried Kratz tried stopping Stephen Avery from getting Dean Strang as attorney, but the judge already signed off on it, so he couldn't do nothing. They were trying to bring any other charges they could against him to raise his bail. They did whatever they could to keep that man locked up. And they went to the most extreme thing when they did what they did to Brendan Dassey. You listen to each one of his interviews. The most truthful one is the first one he gives on November 6th. Up until when they mention the bus driver, that's when he starts changing his story. As soon as you pressures Brendan at all, he caves in. He just tells you what you want to hear. Doesn't think about the repercussions. Look at the O'Kelly. He got so much shit wrong in that fucking interview. It's disgusting. The state said this happened between 4 p.m. and on, but when O'Kelly talks to Brendan, it now happened between 8 and 9 o'clock. That's when all this happened. Them raping her, killing her, and throwing her in the fire. This all happens while Barb is at home doing dishes. Because Brendan was over by Steven. helping him in the garage with the Suzuki and the four-wheeler. Then they went and grabbed the brush that Radant chopped down that Sunday. You can look at the photos that we have from Queso. There's still brush piles in the field. The one that was closest to Stevens is gone because he burned it. He never got a chance to burn the other ones. No, there's no audio at all for the 4th at all from Manitowoc. Even KZ requested it, and they said they don't have any more because they destroyed it. They went and cherry-picked the audio we do have, only because Remaker fucked up. When Beauty was cross-examining him, he mentioned that he used audio to prepare for his testimony. They had no idea about the audio. Question is, did they have access to Calumet's audio? Because if they did, they really dropped the ball. Just the audio for the 9th alone. I mean, for Manitowoc, there's like very little compared to Calumet. And Calumet's all time stamped. Every single audio file. Some of it makes no sense. Like the Tom Pierce phone call is broken up to like 50 something audio clips. But like there'll be a instance where someone will call into Manitowoc and then they'll be transferred to Calumet. Then you can go to Calumet, find that phone call, just timestamp that call. Just like the turkey hunters, he called Manitowoc first. There's a guy, Richard Roll, he calls 3 times saying that they're setting up Stephen Avery, and they set him up too, claiming that one of the cops did it. There's too many aspects of this case you have to look into to actually piece everything together. And it's not just the investigation, it's everything after. Like them delaying Stephen's trial so they could potentially pass the death penalty here in Wisconsin. Bring it back. Flash forward to the bones. Just so conveniently, they give him back to the hall box after Stephen filed his last appeal and lost. They had no idea a documentary was going to be made about this. They had no idea one of the best attorneys in the world was going to take his case. Pro bono. Offered to test everything for free. No cost to the state. They panicked. And they continue to panic. This is political now. This is more than just Tom Kacerek, Dennis Vogel, Andrew Colborn. It's Peg, all of them. The only way I believe they could frame somebody for murder is if you know what happened to the victim. And the best way to frame something for something they didn't do is something that didn't happen. But again, these are my opinions, my thoughts. Think what you want. But well, the thing about the audio on the 4th, we don't have any audio at all from Manitowoc, but we have a printout of a dispatch log for that day. So yeah, and if you look at the printout that Manitowoc has released, it doesn't have any audio for the 4th either. But it's cherry picked. It's not every single dispatch call or every single transmission. It's like they went through and found things that were just pertinent to the case and then cherry picked what they wanted to leave out. But the audio that we do have, they didn't remove everything because the audio for the 7th is so telling. Why is Andrew Coburn saying that Teresa Hallbach is west of Avery's? Just like on the 9th, they're standing by Stephen's burn pit, and you hear the officer in the background state, once we get that dog removed, and then Andrew Coburn chimes in, we just found an entire gold bracelet in the area they were able to get to. Why don't we have no dog reports for the 9th? But one of the dog handlers was on the property. And we're also missing 30 of the 32-page report. We have Manitowoc, who was in charge of all the activities off of the property. They were with the dogs on Twin Ridge Road. We have a report of that. Andrew Colburn on the 9th. He's the one that finds the audio box phone and takes it into custody, along with the papers strung along the road, right in the same location that RAV4 was spotted by Kevin Ramlow and other individuals, several. It's all in the case reports. Seems like anytime they talk to somebody that would benefit Stephen Avery, they try to twist the script and get them to say something negative about Stephen Avery. Like Mark Wiegert finding out about Teresa Hallbach being spotted knocking on a door on Cuss Road by Leo Richmond. Come to find out, his wife is friends with Leo Richmond and his wife. They're friends on Facebook. But Mark Wiegert is less than a half a mile from his front door. He's on the Avery property. And he tells the dispatcher, "Oh, I'm sure that's not the case. Write it down. I'll look at it when I get back." She's still a missing person. They've only found the car. No evidence is found until after the 9th. And a few things on the 8th, the plates, the key. But then the key thing, there's documents saying that the key was found a day before it was actually found. And then you got news reports that contradict what they say happened in the reports. And the news people are getting all their information from law enforcement. You listen to the dispatch on Queso, they're calling every single day asking for updates. They'd even called to ask permission to be let on the property when they did the searches on the 7th. The morning of the 7th, they were ready to wrap up their investigation and release the property. That day, they applied for another search warrant extension, and that's after Cuss Road is found. I mean, I could talk about this all fucking day, just the shit that'll make sense. I mean, we got Ryan Hilgis and Mike Hallbach giving an interview on the 10th, and they ask him about him being on the property, and he completely denies it. But we have sign-in, sign-out sheets of him signing into the command post on that very day. He was there twice, once in the morning and once at night, accompanied by Scott Blodorn. I mean, DCI inserted himself into this before the car was even found. Deb Strauss calls on the 4th. "I got dirt on Stephen Avery." Well, she's brought right in. She's one of the lead investigators that was investigating the 1985 incident. And her and Lisa Newman, I believe, I might have got that wrong, were the investigators for PEG. And they deemed that it was the victim's fault for identifying the wrong person. No wrongdoing. Stephen got no money from the state for the wrongful conviction and incarceration. Anytime you talk to anybody that is a key player in the cases, either one, 2005 or 85, they always want to bring up, well, it's the same two people, Jean Couchet and Peterson. I always want to point out that 6 of the 18 years was justified because of Penny Morris. I believe if Stephen Avery wasn't even considered a suspect in the Kenny Bernstein case, nothing would have came of the Sandra Morris case. And that's partly why they were out to get him. Sandra Morris's husband was the sheriff. They stick together. Like Eric Cozy always said, all compasses point north. I mean, we got Mark Wiegert controlling who comes on the property and who doesn't. And they let Ryan and Scott right on. And in the morning of the 7th, you can hear them say that they just found out that Scott and Teresa were sexually active. 2 hours later, Scott and Ryan show up. They're there for about an hour. Deb Strauss shows up right before them. They leave. She leaves. They come back in the afternoon, around 4. There for about another hour, and then leave. And then we start finding everything. That's why I see some people, Ryan has to answer lots of questions. How did he get the day planner? Just like the missing person, why is it dated a day before she reported missing? Why did it take so long for them to get to the Zipper's house? She's reported at 2:37 p.m. and they're at the hall box by 5 p.m. And we got Sipple calling in just before 6 o'clock. So why did they take 4.5 hours to go talk to Zipper? Everybody else cooperated. Why did Zipper not? That's another good question. Just like on the morning of the 5th, we got Remacher stating that Zipper was her last stop. Then we got the boss wants us to do something, change the plans. Wants us to go back and re-interview Avery. This would be for the 3rd time, because I talked to him initially on the 3rd, Andrew Colborn alone. Then on the 4th, Detective Link and Dave Remacher went to Stephen Avery's property. Don't know what they're doing before they called in his truck plate, because that's when Stephen Avery was notified that the cops were there, because Chuck or Earl overheard his plates on the scanner. They asked, "Where's your truck?" He says, "At home." So him and Ma hopped in the golf cart, and they got met halfway in between Dolores's and Stevens by the officers. They then in turn went back to Stephen Avery's. He let them in. They searched, and then they left. One thing I know for sure, Stephen Avery's story has never changed. Never. And out of everything that I've gone over, you know what's made Stephen Avery look guilty? Nothing. That's right. Absolutely nothing. Every time they talked to Brendan, his story changed. He was just trying to tell him what they wanted to hear to make him shut up. Listen to every interview. I've analyzed them. Written down the questions that the officers have asked him. Every single interview, he gets a different answer for the same question. Like if you ask somebody, "How did you get home from school?" and you took a school bus, your answer should have been, "I took a school bus." No, Uyghur asked Brendan, "How did you get home from school?" He doesn't say, "I took a bus." He goes on to tell him exactly what he did after he got home from school. That was not the question. I mean, they interviewed him on the 27th at school, then at the Two Rivers Police Department. Then Fox Hills happened. And they pick him up, interview him in the car, take him to go get his pants, then take him to Two Rivers Police Department again. Question is, what happened at Fox Hills? And after Brendan's interview on the 27th, law enforcement analyzes those both interviews, and then they go interview Bobby Dassey. Interview we don't have. Just like his November 9th interview when he was talked to at the hospital. We have everybody's interview from that day, but it's sealed. Which I'm led to believe that since it's sealed, that means KZ can't get it either. All the evidence is sealed, so she can't touch it unless she gets an evidentiary hearing. It's funny how they led her to believe that she was going to be able to test everything, and then Judge Sikowicz just prematurely, nope, denied. They knew they gave the bones back. It's documented. I mean, when they gave Zellner not a complete case file, there was missing pages. That's a fact. And for the Court of Appeals just to, I just don't understand it. They send it back, keep sending it back, kept sending it back. She finally gets everything in there, and they just deny it. Nope. Don't even take in consideration. Like Stephen Avery stated out of his own mouth. It should take one violation for him to get a new trial. Just one. And he's got several. But I'm just, I don't know. Till next time. Later.